Hi, my name is Angelo Sotira, A-N-G-E-L-O-S-O-T-I-R-A, from DeviantArt. I'm the co-founder and CEO. DeviantArt is a community of, is the world's largest community of artists. DeviantArt was started to service a community of artists, the community of artists, who at the time that we started didn't have a way to congregate, share their work, and and publish what they were doing. The most fulfilling aspect of DeviantArt is that we have accomplished the goal that we set out to accomplish, which is, and we continue to accomplish that, which is to aggregate artists into one place. Artists in the history of mankind have never had a place to aggregate and get together. The fact that DeviantArt exists as an entity that leverages the internet properly enables artists to connect with one another in a way that, in a volume and in a sheer population number that has never been previously possible throughout all human existence. That has many interesting side effects. The most interesting is the sheer impact that DeviantArt as a community has on its members, especially participants who are trying to further themselves in the arts. The collaborative the feedback loop that you get from participating in DeviantArt, and the connection that you get with a fan base, inspires artists to grow in their craft. And the effect of this, we've seen it over and over. It changes lives. On this tour that we've been on in Sydney and here in Singapore so far, and in Warsaw, Poland next, we hope in Warsaw we'll see what we've seen in these previous two places. And that is, people who pull us aside and they say, much of what they say in thousands of notes that they send us privately, thousands of messages that they've posted to our staff throughout the years. DeviantArt is truly meaningful to me. It really reaffirmed that I wanted to be an artist. It gave me an outlet, gave me a feedback loop, and it really gave me an avenue to go down to start me off. At the time that I was 13, or whether I was 18, or whether I was 25, or whether I was 40, DeviantArt gives people that avenue to start. And that is, if you're on the other end of that, if you're a founder of a company or an entity that does something like that, there is no more rewarding thing you could ever ask for. Yeah, we set out to change the world. We had the ambition to change the world. Seeing the world changing is very emotional for us. Listening, sort of at every step. It's funny because the community, some segments of the community, says, you don't listen to us enough. We believe we do a better job of listening to our community than any other company has. We have departments dedicated to listening. We listen, and we absorb what the community would like. So the entire notion of DeviantArt, when we started with 12 categories of artwork. The whole point was to listen for what categories people wanted created. We've listened and grown that from 12 to 2,400 individually launched categories. When it comes to features, when people say we aren't listening, it's because we're building larger, broader, bigger solutions to solve many of the circumstantial things that they're suggesting. And we're constantly in development. We're constantly in this feedback loop with the community listening. And listening, in today's world, when you're building a socially enabling environment like a community such as DeviantArt, I don't know if that's necessarily true in a social networking instance where it's just about taking your footprint of people that you know and putting it on the web, like Facebook does. You can listen, or you can lead, or you can do what you want to do. At DeviantArt, to build a community where you enter this community and you may not know anybody, and you will meet many people. How you build technology, emotional technology, to enable that to happen. That's a whole lot of listening. The entire science is listening. No, not at all. Version 1 of DeviantArt, version 2, version 3, version 4. does what it set out to do better. That's all we've tried to improve, is just the initial concept, making it better and better and better throughout the years, and augmenting it in ways that empower it even further. Very, very few things about what we've done have been surprising. From the print program through the portfolio engine that we're releasing soon, the group system that we're releasing soon. Those things were inevitable for when we started. They've just taken time to develop and deploy in the right ways. So I'm asked how to create successful communities quite often. The trouble, there's a few things. One, you have to be very in tune with whether or not the topic that you're building a community around is a topic that requires a community. So people don't really stop to think about this. They go, well, I want to build a community for music. Some community capability for music is entirely possible. Fandom of music, great community. But if you want to build a community for musicians, have you ever asked a drummer if they want to sit in front of a computer for 20 hours? You think about it, right? A lot of musicians, their core workflow is to be out and practicing and playing. If you're an electronic musician, this is different. Your workflow is in front of a computer. So you can probably build a very successful electronic music community, but a general music community, it's harder to build a community that, houses rock bands effectively. It's better to build communities in that instance that focus on the fandom of that rock band. But to get the rock stars themselves into the community, boy, that's kind of tough in some respects, right? Lars Ulrich doesn't want to sit in front of a computer. Nobody asked him, before they probably wanted to build a music community for musicians. And so, I'm targeting nobody with that. I don't know of a community like that. But I've thought about music a lot, and that's part of the reason why DeviantArt hasn't expanded into music. That's the first thing. The first point is make sure that the topic that you are building community around needs a community. Secondly, don't build a community where there's already a community, right? A lot of people want to build community in video games. A lot of people want to build community in the arts. A lot of people want to build community in music or things that are entertainment or really, really popular. The question is, are you building a startup that you want to be successful as a business, or are you just being a fan of the video game industry and so therefore you want to build a video game property, or you want to build something that's hyped? There are many, many segments on the internet that require good engineering, good engineers, good good visionaries to take technical instruments, turn them into communities that service very specific things. Like, for example, I fly remote control helicopters, right? I like high-end remote control helicopters. There is not a good community for high-end remote control helicopters. There are some communities, but there isn't the be-all, end-all RC community in general, for helicopters, for cars, for all that kind of stuff. No one's built one because everybody who has the capacity to build a community software that's as complex as something like DeviantArt or Facebook or whatever, they don't choose that type of topic for whatever reason. Whereas even if it might statistically be a smaller segment, there's a lot of revenue to be derived there, right? There's a lot of things that you can do to flourish being an RC community. So I think those types of, and of course I don't want to, if there are good RC communities happening, I'm just using you as an example. I just haven't seen one, and I use RC vehicles all the time. I don't want to offend anybody's community that does RC. I'm just saying that, the other day I was talking to HB, who's one of our engineers. He builds circuit boards. Who builds circuit boards, right? Nobody builds circuit boards. This guy builds circuit boards. He plugs in a hugely complex gadget into the wall, and he plays with electricity. And he builds circuits, he invents circuits, he sends them to manufacturing companies, right? This is a very small segment of the world. But imagine if they had really good community software. Right? The value of that, you could build a small micro community that had, pound for pound, the most intelligent, interesting, engineering minds in the world, because it would be fun, right? All the Intel guys, where do they go to talk about their hobby? Where do, the NVIDIA guys go to talk and, interact about microchip invention? This is a very small segmented thing, but look, the internet is very broad. You can aggregate people on any topic. Choose something unique. Good engineers are hard to come by. Good engineering is hard to come by. If you're one of those two things, make sure you're picking a topic that you can absolutely be very impactful in, and that will in turn bring your startup a lot of success.